definitely have a oil pressure regulator stuck on the oil pump. It's got to be what it is. All right, 1 week later, and I've got a plan. So before I jack the car up, I'm just going to undo these two bolts for the fan shroud so that the fan shroud can move up if needed. We don't have much room between the fan shroud and the fan. I'm not going to take the fan shroud off, just going to let it go up with the fan. And I think that's the only thing that will be in the way up here. We've got enough clearance on the bottom of the fan that it's not going to get into the radiator. We can't lift it much. I bet we only get at max 2 inches out of it before the transmission hits the bell, the tunnel. I'm going to undo the shifter linkage because it's bolted to the frame, then it's bolted, there's a bar that pivots. It's bolted to the frame, it's bolted to the transmission. So I don't want to tweak that thing. So we're going to unbolt it. It's just 2 bolts, and I'll probably take the shifter bolt out, which reminds me, just to be safe, I should chock the wheels. I've got it in park, but if we bump the shifter and bump it out of park, I don't want this thing to roll. Of course, we'll have it on jack stands, but anyway. So we're going to jack it up, jack the whole car up, put it on stands. Well, I'm not going to do the back of the car. We'll just do the front of the car, put it on stands, and I'm going to take the big bolt that runs through the cross member, through the motor mounts. I'm going to take those 2 bolts out, and we're going to find a lifting point on the front of the engine. Not sure where yet. Maybe, I think there's a hole in this alternator bracket. Yeah, there's a hole right here. Mike can bolt through, and then, bolt a chain through here, and then maybe come over and put a chain or something on the power steering right here or something like that. I think that would work. And lift this thing up, and then I think the engine hoist will be in the way as we're trying to work on it. If it's not, we'll leave it connected. If it is, I think then we're going to try to, you can see our engine mounts over there. I think what we would try to do is shove something, a 2x4 or something, if we can get one in between the frame and the engine mount. And that would, then we could let the hoist down, get the hoist out of the way, and the engine would just sit like that. I debated buying one of those, lifting bars, or, it's an engine cradle support or engine support bar, whatever you want to call it. But, you basically set it on the fenders, it runs across, and it's got some chains with some threaded hooks that you can lift. I don't know how well they would do with this much weight, and I think they're more so to support, not actually lift. But we could have lifted it and then tightened those things up and let it support it. Probably should have just done that, but I didn't. So we'll figure this out. Like I said, maybe some 2x4s, or maybe we can work around the hoist. But I just have a feeling it's going to be in the way. And I've got no overhead, no overhead lift or anything in this shop that we could tie onto. There's some beams running across, but they're not strong beams, so we wouldn't want to tie on there, and we can't get it far enough over to get to a strong beam. This would be the closest one over, and we can't get that far over because we got the boat and everything. So, and then the next one over is over there. So not really much we can do other than just support it the best way we can. If worst case scenario, if I can't figure it out, I'll run to Harbor Freight and get one of those engine support bars, and we'll do that. They've got one, so a little more expensive than Amazon, but yeah, I mean, we will do what we need to do. So I think that's all the steps. I did some reading on this, and basically that's kind of what they were saying. You know, jack the engine up as high as you can get. And then it sounds like to get the oil pan off, we have to unbolt the oil pump. So you can't snake that oil pan out because the pickup tube and everything, you know, kind of blocks it. The other thing they said is roll the engine over to top dead center because it puts the weights on the crankshaft, you know, the counterweights, in line to where you can slip the oil pan off easier. So we'll do that. But like I said, it sounds like we got to unbolt the oil pump. So we'll just undo the bolts, let it drop down in the pan. And then going back together is going to be fun because we're going to be, you know, trying to put gaskets in and, you know, slip that oil pump in there, and it'll probably have to be sitting in the pan, and we're going to have to push it up there with the oil pump drive and all that. You know, it just sounds fun. But it beats undoing everything we've done here, you know, and pulling the motor. So we will gladly do what we can to have to, or to prevent from having to do that. The other thing we've got is I did order a oil pump and pickup tube. Most likely we will use that, but I may just go ahead and pull the check valve off that oil pump and just see, you know, maybe if we could free it up, and if I feel good about it, we might run it, but I don't think we are going to. But anyway, ordered it from AutoZone just in case we decide we don't need it. I can just take it to a store and return it, you know, without using it. So I've got that unboxed, or I got that boxed in the Suburban. If we need it, we'll grab it. If not, it's going back to the store. We'll save ourselves $100. Oil pump and the pickup together is about $96. The other thing I thought about that I think we may do is I may go ahead, you know, I've got this other 460 here. I may pull the oil pump drive. Well, it's just sitting in a box. I may swap out oil pump drives. So if you think about it, I'm worried this one could be twisted or could be weakened. We put, think about how much strain that thing took, you know, to turn that oil pump and generate who knows how much pressure. It was 100 psi at idle, and you know, I saw my gauge go over and it was heading up to 300. I don't know where it, you know, it flew up quick, and I feel like it made well over 200 psi before it blew the oil filter out. So I feel like that thing's been under some strain, and it's going to drop anyway when we pull the oil pump. So we'll inspect it and probably go back with the one from the other engine. I think I'd feel better about that. So that's the plan of things. I think I'll bring y'all back maybe when we've got the oil pump off, and we'll take a look at that, see what happened with it. But like I said, I think that oil pump had some surface rust on it, not bad, just a little bit on it. You know, what you would maybe expect for a new old stock part that had been sitting on the shelf for a while. You know, it didn't seem that abnormal. It bugged me a little bit because I think they used a stock photo on the eBay listing, if I remember right. And I remember I was kind of surprised when I got it. You know, it was not in a box. It was in a bag, the original bag with the gasket, but not in a box. And it had, you know, some surface rust on it. And, you know, I cleaned it up and felt like it was probably okay, but yeah, I kind of just got burned on that deal. But oh well, live and learn. Let's get busy. I'm stalling. All right. See down there, fits perfectly. 2x4, and actually there's a little stub on the motor mount that sticks out in the middle. couldn't get it high enough to get the 2x4 over that, and I wanted the 2x4 was only going in about that far. So I chiseled out a little channel in the center of that board so it would go down and past that pin or on that pin, whatever. Did it on both sides. We could get down in there good. You can see that where I chiseled that center out. So here's what we got. We got plenty of clearance for the fan. Of course, you know, we undid the fan shroud, had to do that. We undid the transmission linkage from the shift lever arm and the little pivot that the shaft goes on. If you've done one of these cars, you know that pivot rod, it bolts to the frame into the transmission. Undid that from the transmission. I didn't want to risk bending any of that linkage, and that's it. And I think everything else clears fine. I didn't do anything with the exhaust. I think there's enough flex in the exhaust that it should be fine. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. We'll see what it looks like underneath. Our transmission dipstick, it's got about a 1/4 inch clearance to the heater box, which is fine. 1/4 inch is clearance. So yeah, everything else looks okay, and radiator hoses stretched enough. So let's go underneath and we'll see how much pan clearance we have to get this oil pan off. Well, this is looking much better. So as you can see, we gained probably, well, at least double what we had. We got a good 4 inches there, which we had maybe a little less than 2 inches. And you can see our board there. And our board there. You can see that center, it's chiseled out. Quick and dirty, didn't try to do anything fancy. In fact, it looks like the mount's actually sitting on the frame there, but whatever. Yeah, I think the exhaust was fine. So it seems to be okay, and you see the shift linkage hanging down there. All of our lines, I think, were fine. Probably could have undone this bolt on the transmission cooler line, but I mean, there's some flex there, so not too concerned about that. So that gives us a lot more room to get these bolts out. So I'm going to go through and just try to get all them out. Actually, before we do that, and to be honest, I should have done it before I jacked the engine up. I should have drained the oil, because now that we're more sloped, it's going to be harder to get all of it out of the pan. We're not going to get it all out of the pan. There's going to be some stuck back there. Oh well, live and learn, I guess. That should have been a step we did before now. So I'm going to go ahead, drain the oil, and we'll see if we can get the oil pan off. It would be awesome if I could get this thing off without undoing the oil pump, because if we can get it off without doing that, that means we should be able to bolt the oil pump on and slide the the oil pan in, because it'd be much easier to bolt it in with the pan off. If I can finally talk. So let me see what we can do. And yeah, I guess now's the time also to make sure I have an oil pan gasket. Like I'm fairly certain I do, but we should do that right now. And that way, if I need to get one, I can do that before I get even dirtier. But yeah, it's a shame, but all we can do is move forward, right? So just always remember that a step back means you can take more steps forward, right? You can always take steps forward no matter how many steps back you go. Okay, so here we go. Here's our oil pump, and I pulled the pin out here. This is where our pressure relief valve is down in here, and then I used just a little wood block and tried to tap in there because this needs to come out. There's a spring behind this that then holds the this is a cap and then a spring, and then it should be kind of a little piston. I haven't looked at a diagram, but if that should be if it's similar to other oil pumps. And I think the piston is stuck, but the cap's not wanting to come out. So I think just all in here is just, you know, it rusted up, I guess. And I'm not gonna put any more effort into this. Like I said, I did get a oil pump and a new pickup. I don't like to reuse these press fit pickups. So I'm gonna go grab that out of the car, and we are gonna slap this thing together, drive the pickup in, and our oil pump drive looks fine. It's got some assembly lube on it, but I think I'm gonna look in my box and probably grab the one from the other engine and just throw it in here. I think I'd feel better doing that, and that way, you know, we know it has not been stressed. This one has been stressed. Looks fine, but I think I would just feel better using the other one. Good news is oil looks fine. I mean, I say it looks fine. It looks fine as far as what you would expect for break-in. It looks pretty nasty because I slathered assembly lube all in this thing, and it's a dark assembly lube, and so it makes the oil dark. I mean, so other than that, it looks fine. So we're gonna go ahead and finish. Yeah. Oh, and good news is I got the oil pump, or I got the oil pan off without taking the oil pump off. So I think going back together, we can do that and not have to worry about the you know, trying to do all this with the pan in the way. We can assemble it, slide it back in. It really came off easy. So awesome. So I'm gonna go, I think, maybe clean up the block real quick, and I don't know, maybe we'll assemble the oil pump, clean up the block, and get it all ready to go back together. It's really not, this isn't that bad of a deal. I've been at this from start probably maybe an hour, so not that bad. It's just discouraging, but yep, let me get busy. Well, I'm sitting down taking a break. I've got everything back together. I am beat, but we're gonna get this cam broken in, and man, what a mess. So I'll tell you what I did, and it was stupid. You know, since I had the timing dialed in, technically I had it from how I had the cap marked, I had it 180 out, but it was all dialed in. I think I had 8 degrees of timing in it, which is where I wanted it. So I didn't want to pull the distributor. That was stupid. You know, that oil pump drive goes up into the bottom of the distributor. So I was like, well, you know, I needed to make sure I got that drive shaft up in the distributor. And so, you know, I guided it up in there, and it was in there. And then, you know, I wrestled with the oil pump, getting it on there, getting the bolts started, getting them tight. And once the oil pump's tight, you can't see up in there. So I went and I grabbed my little inspection camera. I was like, you know, I can snake that inspection camera up in there and look. And the battery was dead on it. So I plugged it in to charge it. But in the meantime, I had already put my gaskets on here and the right stuff. I was like, I don't have time to let that charge. Because, you know, that right stuff's gonna set up, and you know, I should have waited to do that part of it. But anyway, so I was like, I tried to wiggle it, and it seemed tight in there, and so I was like, it's got to be in there. And so put the oil pan on it, put oil in it, and I was like, before I go any further, you know, I torqued the oil pan down, all that kind of stuff, put oil in it. I was like, I'm gonna crank it over and see if I've got oil pressure. So, you know, pulled the ignition wire or the coil wire off and cranked it over, no oil pressure. So I pulled the distributor, no drive shaft. I could see it was wedged over against the block. It fell out when I was wrestling with getting the oil pump bolted on. It fell out. And you can't do it from up top. So pulled the oil pan again, put it on, and you know, got it all lined up and in there, came up here and made sure it was in, and it was. You know, it was in where it's supposed to be. I still have the distributor pulled. Torqued it all down, put the oil pan back on, put oil in it, and came up here with my drill and got down on there on that, you know, the drive shaft, and ran my drill, and it ran up to 60 pounds and stayed there. So we should be good. Went ahead and dropped the distributor in and went ahead and, you know, put it correct. You know, like I said, I had it 180 off from how I originally marked the cap. So I went ahead and flipped it back around, stabbed it back in there, reset my timing just by cranking it over. I've got about 5 degrees on cranking, 5 to 8. For whatever reason, my good timing light doesn't like cranking over slow. It doesn't want to light up, but my cheapo Harbor Freight one does. So we've got it ballparked good enough for initial break-in. So I was cooling off for a second. I've got the big fan over here, and we're gonna turn that on and crank it up and break in the camshaft. All right, let's turn the big fan on. It's noisy, but we need to keep this thing cooled down while we break in cam. It should crank right up. Timing should be right. I've got my timing light that has a tack on it, and we're gonna bring this thing up. It needs to run 20 to 30 minutes between 1500 and 3000 RPMs, slowly varying the throttle. That's the recommendation on this camshaft. So I'm gonna get this where I can see it. We're gonna get our oil pressure gauge where we can see it. And let's get this thing cranked up. should be broke in. I don't know, every once in a while it would let a little squirt out. Originally I thought it was overfilled, you know, but I think it was on the verge of trying to get hot. You know, I've got 2 fans on it, and I mean, that's a big fan running there. And, you know, our clutch fan works. We've got a good radiator. So I don't really know there. I kept checking it. For some reason, the gauge in the dash is not working. It worked prior. I don't know what's going on with it, but it's not working. And so I kept checking it with my infrared thermometer, and it never was hot. So the hottest I got it, or the hottest I could see on it, was 208, and that was when it started boiling over. And that was you know, right there near the thermostat. I was checking all around on the intake, so I don't think it got hot. What I'm starting to wonder, you know, this is an aftermarket radiator, and I put a cap on it, and we were fighting this thing getting hot, or running hot, all the way to Colorado and back. It was running warm, and it did end up boiling the coolant out once. And I put a new cap on it, but I'm wondering if this radiator, I got to thinking just now, what if the distance from the top of the cap to the part where it seals is a greater distance than the stock radiator? What that would do is it would be less spring pressure on the cap. So it would be like running a lighter pound cap. This is a 16 pound cap. So it would be like, you know, running a 10 pound cap or whatever. So I'm wondering if that could be the case, and this cap will not work correctly with this radiator. Now I may throw the original cap, this radiator came with the cap, I may throw that on there and see how that does. But also, I think I'm going to take depth gauge and measure from that sealing surface to the top on this radiator and my stock one, and just see if there's a difference there. That could be our problem. But I mean, it's asking a lot of a radiator to run you know, 1500 to 3000 RPMs stationary for 30 minutes. You know, and that's why I put, you know, I've got that fan blowing up at the radiator. We've got this one blowing. So just trying to keep it cool. And, you know, it boiled some out right at the end. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's all right. We've got an issue. The choke's not, I think there's something going on with the choke linkage. I don't know if I need to look at my other carburetor and see if they have this correctly. I think somehow this may be on the wrong side of this. I'm not sure. There's something not quite right. May need to be disconnected and flipped around, because it was not wanting to release. The choke's open, but it was not wanting to come off a high idle. This piece is just kind of flopping around, so I'm not really sure. I have a feeling this should be on the other side. I don't know. There's something, I think, a little off on that. So I need to look at the other carburetor, see how that goes. I haven't messed with that, so this is how it came. But yeah, it's camshaft's broken in. I'm gonna show you something, and I'll probably complain to Rock Auto. It's been a while since I ordered this, but look at this filter I bought from Rock Auto. Actually, you know what? Could be Walmart. Which one? That was in this one. Yeah, that was Walmart. So I'm gonna take this back.
I just bought this. So I grabbed this, I bought a filter, and this one looks like it's been, I bought a filter from Rock Auto a while back, and you know, with some other stuff, and I thought that was the one I grabbed. I put them, when I bought the one at Walmart last weekend, I put it in this box, you know, in this same box with this filter. And so I grabbed that filter thinking it was the one from Rock Auto, and it was a Fram, and I was like, well, shoot. But this one obviously looks like it's been in this box longer. You know, I've had this filter here for, you know, 9 months. So this one definitely looks like it's been in the shop longer than this one. This is the one I must have just bought at Walmart. And so we're gonna take that back. Somebody didn't want to pay for Motorcraft filters, so they put a Fram, they put a Motorcraft in a Fram box and went and checked out. So that's frustrating, but I'll take that back and exchange it, and we'll get a new one. And I will pick up, I don't have any oil, so I'm gonna pick up some VR1, so I need to go do that. All right, so that's gonna do it for this video. We got the camshaft broken in, we got our oil pump fixed, so that's a relief. Engine seems to be running good. So now we've got just little stuff, hopefully, left to get this thing back on the road. I did take that oil filter back to Walmart. You know, I did verify that that was the one from Walmart, and you know, I think somebody at Walmart didn't want to pay for a Motorcraft filter, you know, the $8 Motorcraft filter, so they swapped in a Fram, swapped it with a Fram, and you know, bought a Fram in a Fram box with a Motorcraft filter in it, paid $3 for it, and got themselves a Motorcraft filter at a discount. I just know that's what happened. And so took it back to Walmart. They customer service did not want, or well, they did not let me exchange it. She was very I don't know, suspicious of me, or I don't know. She was not nice at all. She called back to the automotive center and was talking to the manager of the automotive center, kind of explaining to her. And you know, I told her I just wanted to exchange it, and she told the manager of the automotive center that I was trying to return it. To me, return and exchange, I know probably to them they're the same thing in some way, but you know, she made it sound like to the automotive center person that I was trying to get my money back from it, basically. And I just wanted my Motorcraft filter. I wasn't going to put a Fram on this this brand new engine. And you know, and it was just extremely frustrating, you know, and she, I guess the automotive center person asked her if it looked used, and she looked at it and said yes. And so then the automotive center lady said, you know, don't allow him to return it. And so she hangs up and tells me, you know, this looks used. And I'm like, how does it look used? And she shows me the end of the Fram filter, like it's got some scratches on it. I'm like, that's just how it is. Like if it was used, it would have oil in it. You know, it you know, the bare end of the filter, you know, kind of over where the check valve is, there was a couple little scratches in it from Fram, I'm sure, whatever. And she denied it. She said, I can't do it. And so I left and went to the automotive center and talked directly to the manager, showed them the filter, and she exchanged it for me. She said, yeah, this hasn't been used. And she agreed that that's probably what happened. You know, somebody swapped it in and bought a discounted Motorcraft filter, basically. And so yeah, it was kind of a frustrating experience, but you know, at least they made it right, and we got the Motorcraft filter, and I picked up some VR1 as well. So we'll go ahead and do oil change on it. You know, take a look at this, you know, this oil after break-in. Well, I've actually already done that, and I'll tell you, the oil looked fine, the break-in oil looked fine. Got the new filter on it and got it topped off with VR1. So yeah, that's it. Oh, and thank you for the thoughts and prayers about my surgery that I had. Now it's been 2 weeks since surgery. Surgery went fine. I'm on limited work. I get not supposed to lift anything over a gallon of milk, so that kind of makes it where I can't really do anything in the shop for the next few weeks. But you know, this break-in and the oil pump replacement, all that was done prior to surgery, and I've got a couple more videos coming up of stuff I did prior to surgery, so hopefully we don't end up any gaps in coverage, I guess, as far as getting y'all some videos out over the next couple weeks while I'm not able to work out in the shop. I'm going to be stir crazy probably in a couple days at this point, because I'm now almost 2 weeks of not being able to work at the shop. And for those of y'all that like to work on cars and stuff, you know, you can kind of get a little stir crazy not being able to do stuff. So, but got to heal up. So again, thanks for that, and feeling good, so that's good. Anyway, thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more. Let me know if y'all have had a similar experience with filters at Walmart. From now on, I'm going to open the box and check it before I check out, but let me know if that's ever happened to y'all. I'm curious.